I wanted to get into the startup world, and the internet was blooming at this time. And I had an idea of my own startup that I investigated with a friend, and ultimately we decided it was a great idea, but we weren't capable of pulling it off because we weren't really the right people. And so I jumped into a startup that wasn't mine. It actually came out of University of Michigan, called Girouard. It came out from a former engineering professor here named Ramesh Jain in the area of computer vision. And they had essentially had technology where you could take an image and you could find other images that looked like it. You could say, here's a picture of a sunset. Go into this database of 10 million images and find other visually similar images. Ultimately the goal would have been to be able to say, oh, there's a dog, and there's a missile, and there's a this, and there's a that, and be able to do sort of true image recognition, which was kind of far beyond where the technology was at the time. And we did okay. I was there for 6 years. We grew reasonably well. We actually went public, which is kind of insane, but there was this time in the world where almost anybody could go public. And so we did. And nobody made a dime off the damn thing other than the bankers, I suppose, but because the market crashed terribly. But it was a great experience. I actually loved it, and maybe I stayed a little too long, but if there was any lesson I got out of that company was starting with the technology, searching for a problem to solve is really hard, and it's not a great formula for success. And we were exactly that, enamored with technology. When you demoed this thing to people, oh my God, they were blown away. But we didn't know what problem we were there to solve, so we were always on a fishing expedition to find that problem. And I think, if you have enough talented people and you're smart enough, you can sort of get over the hump, and occasionally companies come out of that and become victorious. But I just think in the grand scheme of statistically assessing your likelihood of success, it's pretty low. And that's what I kind of got out of that. I looked around a lot what I wanted to do next. The company was acquired, and I actually went through this whole experience of figuring out where we were going to move back to the East Coast where I grew up, and had a real interesting kind of look at the culture of the Boston area versus the Bay Area, which I won't get into. It's an interesting story, but in any case, I ended up at Google. And for once, I remember even before I'd ever thought of going to Google, I kind of felt like I was never quite on the winning team. I was like at Apple when Windows 95 came out, and Jay Leno was doing this whole thing. And I was in this consulting thing when it was sort of in a downwards, the economy was terrible and this and that. So it was so fun, more than anything else, too, when I went to Google to be on the winning team. And I got there, and essentially, what Larry asked me to do was something I hadn't the slightest clue about, which was go do this enterprise thing, which, as you heard, was this kind of like appliance thing they had invented over a weekend to sort of give Google search for your own websites or your own content. And the interesting thing, particularly about Silicon Valley culture, was Larry didn't actually care whether I had done it before at all. He really had no notion of do you have expertise in this? Have you done it before? Anything like that. It was actually very refreshing, which is, I seem to think you could probably do this pretty well. Why don't you go take a shot at it? And that was very refreshing. That was actually sort of, what I think is inherent in the culture out there, and in particularly at Google, which was just trust in people's ability to learn. And so I was at Google for 8 years, and it was a great experience. I had a chance to build something pretty much from scratch. So I guess in the context of this group and this class, it's what I think the term is sometimes referred as intrapreneur. I don't even know if I like that term. I don't know what to make of that term, to be frank. But I guess I was an intrapreneur, whatever that is. I was building something, and in certain ways it was almost a extreme case of that, in that what I was trying to do was entirely foreign to Google. I mean, to be honest, it was like zero instincts or in some ways interest in building this sort of thing in the early days. Why would we want to build something that we sell to companies? All of a sudden, we're a web search company, and we had a lucrative and fast-growing advertising-based business. So it was a great experience, in building up to a $1 billion business over 8 years is something you don't get many chances to do in your life. So it was without doubt, my greatest professional experience to date. Amazing fun. And the only thing I'll say about sort of my lesson learned out of that, and I'm only getting that lesson now because I feel you don't get them until you extricate yourself, is that as I look back on it now and go, wow, that's awesome, and as I can tell the story in a few minutes, it sounds so great. Every day was hard. There was not a day where it went, wow, this is just going amazingly well. Like things are just happening. It was never that way, not a day. every day was either there was a disappointment, there was a setback, there was something. But when you sort of saw it over the longer period of time, it's like, wow, that was really special. And what an amazing experience, and look how much we accomplished. And I just want to sort of maybe acknowledge this. I think this is the true for entrepreneurs, if not more so than what I experienced at Google, is that's how it is. I mean, there may be a great day here and there, but frankly, it's just hard work day in, day out. And that's sort of what you have to set yourself up for. And I, like I've said to people, sometimes I feel every day I was at Google, I was pushing rocks uphill, and they were, pushing them up 6 feet, and they were tumbling down 5 feet, 11 inches. But over 8 years, it actually added up, and we did a lot.